Ladies and gentlemen, you are about to witness some scenes from the next attraction to play this theater. This picture, truly one of the most unusual ever filmed, contains scenes which under no circumstances should be viewed by anyone with a heart condition or anyone who is easily upset. We urgently recommend that if you are such a person or the parent of a young or impressionable child now in attendance, that you and the child leave the auditorium for the next 90 seconds.
Alrighty, welcome to another episode of the Video Nasty Project. We are going to be watching the movie Bloodbath. See the film that set the slasher movie blueprint. Can you handle the terror of Mario Bava's Giallo classic, A Bay of Blood? What? A Bay of Blood. That's blood. Twitch of the Death Nerve. Carnage? Riazzoni, I can't even pronounce that. Let's watch the trailer. And that was Bay of Blood. Yes, Bay of Blood.
Or Twitch of the Death Nerve.
Carnage.
40 other titles.
Mm-hmm.
a long list on the IMDb of names this movie has gone under.
Which, depending on which list of the video nasties you look at, it's sometimes hard because they'll use any of the random names,
Right.
depending on which list you're looking at.
Yeah.
And, well, I'm Tony. There's Ian, and my good friend, and joining us again.
So I'm Jeff Harris. I am the host and producer of Fanboy News Network and a frequent contributor on the horror podcast Don't Read the Latin.
So, Bay of Blood. Twitch
Bay
of the
of
Death
Blood.
Nerve. Twitch of the Death Nerve is actually a much superior title. I love that title.
Well, the thing is, as a video nasty title, and more importantly, as a grindhouse cinema title, which this was definitely one of the grindhouse films.
Yeah.
Perfect. In fact, it's most well known under that name.
Yeah.
But in the context we're looking at it, Bay of Blood is perhaps more appropriate.
The interesting thing, aside from... So you have all your video nasties, and they're all kind of this tawdry, seamy movie. This is actually kind of an elegant, much more superior to its peers movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's more competently made
Right.
than 90% of the nasties. First off, just from the amount of story structure, the cinematography
Is gorgeous.
We were discussing actually while we were watching it for this recording that the soundtrack is really excellent for the era and what they're trying to convey in each scene.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of got that funky bongo 60s riff sort of, but not quite.
Yeah.
And at times when they're trying to set mood or convey an emotional message, when they're using the music, it's paired very well. It's not ever a distraction from the scene. It may seem a little odd in modern era due to modern choices, but if you're looking back in 1971, great. Part of unpacking this film is unpacking the mystery. This is, so if I may,
Go ahead.
one of the reasons this film is well known is it's looked at as one of the progenitors of the slasher genre.
Yes.
Even though in and of
Exactly.
itself it's not really a slasher film, it's a more pure, even though variant giallo film, because there's murders and there's a mystery at the core.
And it's
Yes.
a very stylish kind of giallo feel.
Yeah, it's easy. It's much easier to follow than a lot of
Yes.
of them. But also the fact that if you look at some of the early slasher films that are clearly taking their cues from this movie,
One specifically.
well, so obviously Carpenter took some ideas from
Right.
it, but I'm thinking with the Friday the 13th franchise, the first movie, there's the mystery of who's the killer.
Right.
Yes.
Which doesn't really get solved until the end. And so that mystery aspect, and then of course in part 2, they very directly homage some of the kills.
Right.
Two.
Yeah, the bit where the guy gets the machete to the face in the wheelchair and he bounces down the stairs. And then the two lovers get the spear through the back. Is exactly lifted note for note right out of Bay of Blood.
Well, and so, I mean, really, if we want to talk about the plot,
Which we probably ought to.
we are,
Yes.
at the core, it's a mystery, but I described it as it's a Lex Luthor plot. In the end, it's all about real estate. It's all about owning land.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you've got the Contessa, who is this old lady in a wheelchair, and she is... It opens with her very penitent and kind of sad and melancholy. And then 2 minutes in, she gets killed. She doesn't want to sell the land for the bay. She wants to keep it natural and preserved because it's apparently her family heritage has gone back for years. And so she represents the keep the bay pristine. You have then the other side of the equation, we want to develop the land because it's worth $1 zillion.
Yes.
And pretty much the movie is you have characters A and characters B, and they just kind of murder each other on the way up to the top of the plot.
So let's talk about the first murder.
All right.
So you have the Contessa. Hers is also one of the cleanest murders in that she's hung. But not 2 minutes after she's murdered, they reveal her murderer.
Right.
Who is then promptly murdered.
Which is really unusual because you're thinking, okay, this is kind of a giallo. You've got your black gloves, you've got the mysterious killer that you don't see the face on, and then the camera pans up to him, and you're thinking, wait a second, this isn't how giallos work.
And her murderer being murdered, there's a mystery murderer at that point moving forward through the next four deaths.
Right. Well, he doesn't really get revealed into who that specific murderer is. I think in the end, if we do the count right, not counting the very last bit of the movie, I think we have 3 different murderers, not counting the first murderer.
Correct.
We have 3 different murderers going throughout with, again, varying motivation.
So, much like your Friday the 13th, a bunch of teenagers go into the woods to have sex and party and get killed.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much their purpose in the movie. So, so they frolic in the ruins of a gas station in like an old nightclub. Hilda, she goes out and swims around in the bay, finds the dead body of the countess's husband.
The first murderer.
The first murderer. And then she is like, oh my God, dead body, as appropriate. Runs in, and then that's when she gets killed.
Right. At first, the teenagers seem very tacked on.
Yeah.
It's like, and then suddenly there's teenagers that are there to get killed. However, if she hadn't gone swimming, she wouldn't have accidentally unearthed the body.
Correct.
And that body being discovered is necessary to motivate a lot of the plot going forward.
Yeah.
And also she gives us our titillation for the film.
Right.
Because she's skinny dipping and...
Extensively running around nude for a while.
Yeah. So... And which again is a codification that would be later found in slasher films. Also, you had sex, you die, you appeared naked, you die. That aspect of slasher films is definitely found here.
One of the kids is there and obviously is not wanting to be there.
Yeah, he's weird. Yeah, it's like you have this hot German bombshell, and like, oh, come to the bay with me, come to the bay with me. And I'm just gonna hang out with these guys. Like,
yeah, she's giving every cue. If you come with me, you're getting lucky. Again, modern sensibility.
Right.
In a modern film, I feel this kid would be coded asexual.
Yeah.
Or he's more interested in the other girl, but
Fair
his
point.
friend is already,
laid claim to that territory.
and is getting there, and so he that's the feel. It does feel disjointed, but yeah, it's the kids, like they say, they serve a purpose, and frankly, their other purpose is the disposition of their bodies is also a later plot point.
And it's actually a really brilliantly shot plot point. The reveal of this pile of dead bodies when it's the entomologist's wife finds them, and there's this pile of dead bodies in the bathtub.
I'm going to correct you.
Oh.
It's not. It's the Contessa's daughter.
Oh, my bad. Oh, right.
That finds them but it is. She's in the bathroom. The mirror shifts and suddenly there's the bodies. But you're right about the cinematography of that
It's
scene.
gorgeous, yeah.
Because it makes it appear there's more bodies there than there actually are. The photography direction in this film is for that era is top notch.
Oh, yeah.
And as a work of visual storytelling.
That's Mario Bava for you.
Yeah.
And, well, he not only the director of the film itself, but the director of cinematography. And it was all based on the fact that he had no money to hire anybody.
Yeah.
That's why he had to do it. And he had to resort to tricks. All of the tracking shots in the film are done with a child's wagon.
Yeah, a little red wagon.
He put the camera on a wagon and pulled the wagon.
Smooth.
And there's smooth
Yeah.
tracking shots.
Hey, as the three of us are veterans of amateur filmmaking, I mean, you and I did a film back in the 80s where we did a dolly shot with a wheelchair.
Yes.
You do what you do to get the job done.
What you have on hand, I mean, Sam Raimi's early films were masterful in that and it's the classic, if it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid. Mm-hmm. So yeah, beautiful. Just use of the camera and use of it to create part of the mood.
And one of the other interesting things I thought about the use of the camera is that the camera is always in motion. It's always zooming or panning, or it does that when the scene transitions are, it zooms in and does the soft focus and zoom out and you're in a different scene. So Bava is really clever with the way he uses his camera movement.
He also does something that Lucas did an allusion to, where the camera would start to pan and it would cut to the next scene, and that scene would be a continue of the pan, although it's a jump cut.
And well, that's how they did a couple of the kills too, like the guy who got the machete to the face. Basically, he looks up and then you see the killer's arm, and then the killer starts to swing, and the way the camera moves, it looks like, they've already got him in the prosthetic with the machete here. So he leans back, and so the camera tracks to him. You think that he got hit by the machete. It's a really cleverly done trick.
Yeah.
Well, that or later in the film when one of the characters is beheaded and you see the hatchet come down, the head taken off, and the next shot is a bit of pottery with a face on it breaking on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
Which... Oh, yes, okay.
I'd like to point this one out, because I'm the one who spotted it.
You spotted it, it's yours.
Okay, so in the previous, in another review, Flesh for Frankenstein...
The first one I did, in fact.
The first one. There's two kids, and the girl, the daughter, in Flesh for Frankenstein, is again the daughter in this film. And although she's not revealed as the daughter, it's just suddenly there's kids. And it's kind of funny, it's like she's in two films, and in both instances, the head of a doll is separated. I'm just like, odd coincidence that.
If she shows up a third time, we'll just...
Well, also, I mean, as a spoiler, she's also second film where she and her little brother are the last character standing. Everyone else is dead.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's a point in this movie. Everyone dies.
Everyone dies except for the kids because they're innocent. Everybody who's guilty, who needs punishing, is properly and appropriately punished.
They really are. So there's a lot of that old Hays Code morality
Right.
Yeah.
in it, even though this is an Italian Giallo film.
So, of the what is our favorite death of the? What's your favorite death of the?
Honestly, Simon's. It is well shot. It is well placed within the narrative of the film. I think the actor playing Simon's performance during it, and that tracking shot as he's dying, pinned to the wall with the oddly serene music,
Right.
and that final slump as he dies.
Totally sells it.
It's an iconic moment, and it's a culmination because it's sort of in a movie where there has been a lot of kills. If you want to have something that really has impact, then it is appropriate that a final death like that would be that impactful. So yeah, second, I would have to say, just from an executional standpoint, I enjoyed how they handled the death of the teenagers.
All right.
Particularly the first one with Hildy. From a filming point of view, the only slight flaw was clearly the actress was out of breath. And even though her throat's been slit, you can clearly see her still trying to catch her breath.
Yeah.
Although, to give her credit, her face was stock still.
Oh yeah. No, it was the only indication was just the breathing. It's
Yeah.
like
It's obviously
well.
the scene was a progressive shooting, and budget constraints. Obviously,
We get one go.
Couldn't do a reshoot. He couldn't
Because of the throat slit effect.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I will say this movie I've noticed this in the nasties, and I think it may be an era constraint, but this is another movie where the blood is very orange. What was your favorite kill?
My favorite kill, I am going to have to go with the one at the very end, the mommy daddy kill, just because it is so out of nowhere. Just, you think everything's done, everything's settled, and then boom, one last kill. It's like, what?
It's mundane, but the fact that we have the gal is strangled, hung, and then within moments later, her killer is killed. I'm just like, you got your comeuppance.
And the beautiful thing about that is it gives you two kills right out of the gate. Just boom, boom. You know this movie is not messing around.
And it goes from, she got strangled, it's tame, she's hanging there dead, and then Her husband's death is knife, stabby, 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 blood, blood, blood. Which is just, okay. There we go.
A good subversion of the trope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's, again, this movie was notable because at the time, you tended to have the gory discretion shot.
Exactly.
You would see the knife coming in, and you would see the aftermath, but you wouldn't see the actual violence.
The act, yeah.
In this movie, nope. It's all in it. Again, precursor to modern slasher.
Which is probably how it wound up on the nasty list, because it is really, the gore is really well done. Very flawless effects.
There's a famous story that when the movie came out, Christopher Lee went and saw it and was disgusted and left the theater. And I'm like, oh, this is Christopher Lee, who we know enough of his time in World War II, probably actually stabbed people.
He kills Nazis for a killed for a living. So
Well, the other thing is he went to the film because he had worked with Bava before.
right.
In a film like a decade earlier and respected him. Like, this guy's a great filmmaker. I'm going to go see this film he's done. And he walked out without even finishing watching the film. Because it was just like, no, dude. You went too far. I'm not, yeah.
Which, again, puts us back on the nasties territory.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, plus this movie, I mean, if we were going to talk about does it belong on the nasties list?
Yes.
I know we're probably jumping your normal schedule.
Yeah, that's fine.
But does it belong on the nasties list? Again, if we're looking at what was being looked at by the censors at the time, the gore alone.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if the nudity, because, you only have one character that is actually nude in the film.
And it's not really erotic. It's
No,
not really.
She
almost-
took her clothes off to go swimming.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways a very innocent nudity.
Yeah.
She's full frontal, and there are people where that is enough for titillation, but outside of the fact she's not wearing clothes, it's almost the codification of look how vulnerable she is.
Exactly.
And then
But I could see the censors going, but I would not put that as the main reason, but the gore alone was
Right,
probably plenty.
I would also probably add in the mood, just the what it was trying to do, very much would offend the blue hairs of the era.
yeah. Family members killing family members over a house.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's really what it was.
So do you think it belongs on the nasty list? Would you put it on the list if you
Would
were?
I put it on the nasty list? I think it's a little overreaching putting it on the nasty list.
Right.
It's a little. It just the blood and gore, yes, warranted. I'm sort of half and half.
I don't think. Yeah. If I had my list, no, I don't think I'd put it on there either. It's, yes, for 71, it's tame, but by the time you get to 84, when the list is being codified, I don't think.
Yeah.
There are much worse things on the list. Your Cannibal Holocausts and stuff, far worse than this.
Yeah.
So, not on the list for you?
Yeah, I'd say that because, again, by the time you're in the 80s, you're already getting into the modern slasher films.
Right.
Which took the kills to a whole nother level. I think this one may have ended up on the list more by reputation than by actual merit.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Mario Bava, he does scary stuff. Let's throw him on the pile.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have greater familiarity with the list than I do. How many other Giallos?
Let's see. There's Tenebrae is the only other one that was in the 39. Then I think there were two more in the not prosecuted list. They had Deep Red and Night Train Murders.
Okay.
And Night Train Murders is kind of a Giallo.
Yeah.
Hard to say which side you would put it on.
All right, fair enough.
So, did you like the movie?
Yes. I would rewatch that film happily. It's not. There's nothing icky about it. Yes, gory. Icky, no.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just flat out. It's a good movie. I think the reason that I say this is, I enjoyed it, obviously, but I've enjoyed bad films before. But it is a well-structured film. There is a core mystery that is relevant. There is everything. None of the deaths they're just as deaths.
They're not gratuitous.
Yeah, they're all motivated somehow by the story, by the plot.
You might, at a first glance, you might argue the teens, but as we've already pointed out, not really.
Yeah, and again, it's a well-made, well-shot, well-acted film, and I also, it's a good film, like Ian said. I would watch it, and I think it deserves its place as an influential piece of horror.
I would say this movie is almost as influential as Night of the Living Dead was. Because, think about this. Without this movie, Friday the 13th wouldn't have gotten huge. And Friday the 13th, okay, you can say that Halloween was the first slasher, or Black Christmas was the first slasher. But Friday the 13th was the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It was the one that set everything off in the 80s.
Yeah.
So this being Friday's grandfather, I would say pretty much cements it as that's one of the vital horror cornerstones.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, absolute thumbs up on that.
I liked it. I really dug it. It's definitely one that you need to rewatch a couple of times just because it's so convoluted and so much what the hell is going on. So I think the payout when you're watching it a second or a third time, you can kind of relax and start enjoying it. It's like, okay, this is where they're going with it, and you get a lot more pleasure out of it. So I think repeat viewings makes it a much stronger movie.
Yeah, I would not recommend it for non-slasher fans.
No.
But for those who appreciate the slasher genre or appreciate gore film, it is definitely... Because in the end, I think what I will say that it has over a lot of those is I didn't consider it exploitative.
So, anything else we want to add?
I have to say this is one that my biggest disappointment in this movie is that it is in fact not better known.
Yes, that is a crime.
Yeah, I think if there's any justice, more people should know about this film and see it just from the point of view of.
It is well known enough that a heavy metal brand adopted the name Twitch of the Death Nerve as its name.
True,
but it doesn't have the public recognition like your Halloweens and Friday the 13th.
True,
very true. I mean, when I told people I was coming over to record this episode, their reaction when I told them what I was reviewing was like, "Huh, I've never heard of that." And considering a lot of them are horror, I mean, considering a couple of them host a horror podcast,
sounds like a blind spot they need to fill.
But it also I think talks to, depending. I think there's also an era thing. I think this is one of those that younger generation horror fans don't know a lot of these more formative movies.
Correct.
The same way a lot of people aren't as familiar with the black and white horror that codify a lot of tropes.
Go out and watch this because you need to watch this.
I highly recommend it.
All right. There we go. See you next week.
Bye.
Ciao.
All right, so we have finished reviewing Bloodbath, Blood or Twitch of the Death Nerve, whichever one you want to pick with. Please like, share, subscribe. Next week we are going to be reviewing A Beast in Heat. Thanks again. Have a good night.